And good morning. Welcome back to Rally for the Republic, 8th episode, Monday, June 24th of the year 2024. This is Bryan Rudnick. I'm back for an exciting week after being on the campaign trail quite a bit last week. I've got an in-studio guest who's going to remain anonymous, and the U.S. House is back to work tomorrow. Well, I had to today. The U.S. Senate's on vacation until July 8th, thanks to your taxpayer dollars. Hardworking Americans like you allow the U.S. Senate to be on vacation. Thank you, I'm sure, for some of them. It's the end of the quarter for fundraising. Numbers are rolling in. Team Trump is outraising Team Biden. I guess their strategy at Team Biden has gone really well. All eyes are focused on Hotlanta on Thursday night to see the brawl between old Uncle Joe and Donald Trump. Is he out to lunch, or is he ready to keep leading something in the Oval Office? Who knows what that is? And your feedback continues to be important to me, so please continue to write feedback at rallyfortherepublic.com. On today's show, I want to talk to you about AOC rallying with bitches and hoes, some thoughts towards Thursday night in the 2024 election, Supreme Court's decisions at the end of last week, and more to follow this week. And I'm going to have a special announcement at the end of the show. I'll be back to you in a moment.
This is a battle cry for the American way of life and a relentless pursuit of truth and justice. It comes from a voice with unmatched experience and unyielding resolve. Join us as we dissect current events and tip the scales in your favor. This is Rally for the Republic with your host, Bryan Rudnick.
Bryan Rudnick, Rally for the Republic. I'm back with an in-studio anonymous guest who just wants to sit here and I guess look pretty, but he's smiling as I do this broadcast for you. Been a big advocate of mine to do this show. And while we're all going back to work this week and getting ready for next week's Independence Day, we first got to be worried about Thursday night. But the U.S. House of Representatives, Speaker Johnson, everybody is starting to get back to D.C. except for the U.S. Senate, and they're looking for more ways to spend your money. They're working hard to figure out how we can reach that $1.9 trillion in national deficit. That's the goal this week for members of Congress. And Team Biden, you bet they're worried about Thursday. I don't care what they say. They are worried. Fundraising's down. Poll numbers are down. Biden's energy is probably down. And his allies want you to be distracted. So don't be distracted. Don't think for a second that women's rights are on the ballot, because today they've decided to tell you that the Dobbs decision's second anniversary is today. It's Donald Trump's fault that women apparently can't kill babies in the womb. That's their plan. Remember, they want to be like Hamas and Hezbollah and have a license to kill babies in the womb. They're willing to spend $50 million, $100 million, whatever ridiculous sums of money they can spend to keep from feeding children, to keep from safeguarding children in schools. They think somehow it's important to kill babies in the womb. So let's talk about what are the other issues. Well, they don't want you thinking about the poor economy. They don't want you thinking about inflation. They don't want you thinking about the border crisis. No, they're giving amnesty away. Don't think about it. It's like a shell game. You're paying for it either way. But they also want you to think that Donald Trump is responsible for putting bump stocks on the streets to kill Americans like you. Mind you, Donald Trump was the president who unfortunately tried to outlaw bump stocks. Yet somehow, because of the Supreme Court's decision, they're now going to blame him. They're going to tell you everybody in America who's an NRA member probably has a full auto machine gun in their house, even though nobody knows the definition of what that is. But thanks to bump stocks, they supposedly have it. It's the biggest farce. Again, these are all distraction tactics from the truth. The economy sucks, inflation is still happening, and the border crisis is getting worse. So the AP puts out an article. Biden and allied Republicans are trying to rally GOP women in swing state suburbs away from Trump. Okay, and they talk about some lady, and she's in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, nice suburb, lots of good things going on. And they give you stats about the 6 in 10 suburban women who voted in 2020 for Biden. 2020 was a very confusing time for our country. There was a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic, thanks to Anthony Fauci being lackadaisical at his job, but seeking to be the deep state bureaucrat who wanted to control America. And he got the Democrats on board, and it led to sleepy sleepy Joe Biden in his basement, somehow stealing an election and getting in the White House. And these Democrats who want you to believe that they respect women more than any Republican, the party that, tried to embrace the Me Too movement. Thankfully, they've got Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, and she's out championing progressive Jamaal Bowman in Westchester County, New York, for tomorrow's election. And she gets on stage. They're rapping, they're singing, they're chanting to what? Cardi B, another woman who disrespects women. Yet the Democrats love her endorsement. Joe Biden got her endorsement in 2020 to help carry the day. This is a woman whose song is about bitches and hoes. So AOC is on stage rapping, dancing, chanting, rallying to bitches and hoes, but yet somehow she continuously complains about Marjorie Taylor Greene and Paul Gosar and anybody else who's disrespecting progressive women who aren't being allowed to kill babies in the womb. Yet somehow, this is the message they want to send to young girls in America. You should be a bitch and a hoe. Huh? Really? No, that won't be how I raise my daughter. Thank you. And Alexandria gets up on stage and she's dancing and chanting and she's asking these people if they're ready to take back the country. I thought they were in charge. Aren't they campaigning on being in charge? Aren't they campaigning on all the great things that their party has done to destroy this country? No, she's there in Westchester County trying to get anti-Semitic criminal Jamaal Bowman reelected in this Democrat primary tomorrow. And they're rapping and they're encouraging people to take back their country and implement a ceasefire in Israel and calling out Israel as a country promoting genocide. This is what that moron is doing. I'm pretty sure she's still drinking from that bar she once tended. This is what we are facing here, people. You've got such hypocrisy on the left. They're standing by Jamaal Bowman, a man who tried to commit an insurrection, a criminal who pleaded guilty, yet by the same standards, Donald Trump is a criminal, but Jamaal Bowman, no, he's not. They can dance to bitches and hoes. He's already backtracked on his statement about the rapes that occurred to Israeli women just in time to get reelected, just in time before voters in Westchester County got smart to boot him. Okay, so what do you need to understand? If you know anybody in Westchester County, New York, friends, family, loved ones, strangers, I don't care, get them to vote and boot Jamaal Bowman. Because this year, 2024, no exaggeration. This is not just about Joe Biden's America. This is about AOC's America, the Progressive Socialist Squad. They infiltrated. They've had a significant impact. Jamaal Bowman is now the poster child. So they're voting in New York, not just on Biden's America, but whether or not you're a common sense American, loving American, or are you an AOC loving American? Think about that. Do you support the deconstruction of America? Do you want socialism? Do you want people who think Israel's a genocidal maniac? Or do you want people with common sense running our country? Not somebody who pulls the fire alarm to prevent a vote from occurring because he couldn't get the votes. That's an insurrectionist. This is your choice here on the 2024 ballot. And I'll be back to you in a moment.
You are listening to Rally for the Republic with your host, Bryan Rudnick.
Okay, Bryan Rudnick, Rally for the Republic here. I'm going into our next topic. It is Thursday night's debate, the brawl in Hotlanta. I want to make it clear. I prep candidates at levels for Congress, U.S. Senate, for debates. We get in a room for hours. We go over topics. We go over policies. We go over themes. You do this weeks and months sometimes in advance of debates and candidate forums because it helps candidates anyways while they're on the campaign trail when they're getting peppered by the New York Times with questions or some liberal journalist who's going to jump out of the shadows and try to get the gotcha questions going. So an important part of my job as a political consultant is to really help prepare my clients. I'm constantly peppering them with articles from the left, from the right, making sure they see both sides, making sure they understand in-depth policy issues so they can formulate their own thoughts and opinions, but also so they understand the zeitgeist. And then we're leading up to candidate forums, meetings with voters, and debates. And I've done the negotiating and organizing of debates, even with the late Tim Russert for his Meet the Press style debates that he used to have. And for many others, whether it's local radio, TV, you name it, I've been there, I've done that. And you've heard a lot in the news about the debate tonight, or the debate this Thursday night, and what's going into it. So just a little background. Sometimes you'll hear about these things in the media. The candidates' teams will get together with the host of the debate or the forum, and there'll be discussions on, are they sitting? Are they standing? What's the podium height going to be? Can a candidate have a step stool if they're too short? Are they like Charlie Crist, and do they need a fan or some sort of AC unit blowing on them? Are they allowed to have an open glass of water or a closed bottle of water? Will there be pens and paper? Can they bring notes? Things like that. Okay. And then, of course, who's sitting in the front row? You may recall one time Donald Trump brought one of those ladies that Bill Clinton decided to play with to the debate against Hillary Clinton to throw her off her game. So obviously all these factors get calculated in, all the way down to what's the temperature in the room. Is it going to be warm? Is it going to be really cold? Candidates, if they're on a stage, might have a lot of lighting that makes the room even warmer than what the audience is experiencing. So all those things go into play. And there's a lot of prep. Smart candidates, even incumbents, know to prep. And you will see the difference. Any debates you've ever watched, if they look on their game, if everything is smooth, if they're comfortable, they've been prepped. If they're messing up, it's because they neglected to do the right things. Because just like professional sports, you got to practice for game day. So, what's happening this week? Presidential debate, end of quarter, numbers from polling to fundraising are all at play. We got Donald Trump is in court today. So that's, in play for him. And they're obviously doing that intentionally to throw him off his game, which I find to be quite humorous because, as we all know, Donald Trump eats this stuff up. And Team Biden knows that. That's why the rules that they convinced their friends at CNN to implement are rules for sissies. Joe Biden is a sissy. Donald Trump is an American with bravado, like Teddy Roosevelt and Ronald Reagan. He says, okay, Joe, you want the Marquis of Queensberry rules? Sure, no problem. I'll do it your way just to prove that I don't care what you have going on. I'm still going to kick your ass. And if you don't know the Marquis of Queensberry rules, I suggest you Google them. It's quite interesting. See, it's the perfect analogy. Donald Trump airs a bare knuckle brawler. And the Marquis of Queensberry rules were to avoid bare knuckle brawling. He took boxing to a whole different level of gentility and civility. Now, Americans might tell you, oh, why do they have to be so nasty? Why do they always attack in politics? What's with the negative ads? Well, guess what? America remembers the negative ads and the negative comments more than they remember how nice you were to your opponent. So, Donald Trump is proving that it doesn't matter what old Sleepy Joe is going to throw at him. Remember, it's Sleepy Joe. Okay? Doesn't matter. So, this is a match of two old white guys who aren't going to be allowed to do bare knuckle brawling, but my money's on Trump to pulverize them. And to mitigate the damage, Team Biden said, okay, we're going to give 90 minutes in Atlanta to our friends at CNN. They'll moderate. Candidates get 2 breaks, probably not even enough time to go to the bathroom in between. There's no live audience because they don't want anybody cheering Donald Trump on because he feeds off of the audience. They know it. And more importantly, there'll be nobody to witness old Sleepy Joe screw up. So CNN, his friends, will get to edit out some of those mistakes before you get to see them. And of course, they know Donald Trump well enough to know that he is a showman, so there'll be no props allowed. There'll be no RFK Jr., in case you were looking for that one, because he had some amoeba eat his brain, and that caused him to not earn enough electoral college votes or get high enough in the polling to win states. And you know what? CNN just said, okay, we'll go with whatever Team Biden wants, because, again, that would just eat into Biden. So there'll be no speaking over each other, yet somehow they think they're going to control Donald Trump. I've been laughing about that particular rule ever since it was announced. I think it's the stupidest thing imaginable. You're going to have two boring white guys boosting CNN's numbers, millions upon millions of Americans watching, hoping for the Thrilla in Manila Part 5, but it's not going to be that. No, it really is going to be stupid and boring. And some people think Donald Trump should just stand there, look pretty, be quiet, let Biden make a fool out of himself. By the way, if you're drinking that night, if you want to do any drinking games, count how many times Biden says Trump is a threat to democracy or calls out his criminal record. You might be drunk before the second break. Okay, just some thoughts, some ways to get through Thursday night. For my Panthers fans out there, you'll obviously be looking for a reason to get drunk, so that's just an idea. But I quite frankly believe Donald Trump can do a couple things to ensure his victory Thursday night. This is my perspective. I like to buck the trend. I like to buck the common thinking of my peers who I've spent quite a few days discussing this with. No matter what, Donald Trump is getting to speak to an audience that tunes him out after 30 seconds. The majority of these left-wing Democrat activists, voters who are there to really see Biden hopefully kick Trump's ass, which isn't going to happen, can actually have an opportunity to hear Donald Trump speak, get his message out, and hear things that they refuse to otherwise listen to. They'll be kind of a captive audience for Trump. And he needs to do outreach to these people. Independents and Democrats are what he needs to win the election. There just aren't enough Republicans. He needs to convert more. I know he's been working on it. Heck, he's been in the hood more times than Joe Biden, who supposedly claims to be helping Black America. Ask the Black leaders. They've even admitted it. So Trump needs to continue that trend of reaching out to independents and Democrats and people who are questioning why they would vote Democrat, like Latinos and African American voters have been doing, because the economy sucks, inflation's rising, everything costs too damn much, and who the hell cares about these illegal aliens that are putting a strain on our economy, putting a strain on our taxpayer base? God needs to take care of his children no matter what country they come from, but the taxpayers of the United States do not. So Trump needs to remind America of that. And then to really throw Joe Biden off his game, and to put the pressure on Biden, Trump should demand a pardon for all of the litigation that Team Biden has put him in. Because let's face it, Team Biden is responsible for the litigation, Team Biden and their allies. And Joe Biden, if he wants to be America's civil president, if he wants to be the leader that shows America the difference of threat to democracy versus non-threat to democracy, whatever's in that warped head of his after the brain surgery he had in the 70s, he should show America leadership by pardoning Trump. And Trump should demand it. Trump should say, hey, Joe, the only thing you have to say about me is I'm a threat to democracy and I'm a criminal. Why don't you pardon me? Make it a fair fight. And then what would you talk about? Because you don't have a record of success to talk about. So Trump should bait him into a pardon. And Biden's not going to have a response. He needs to man up. But no, Biden doesn't want a fair fight. Biden can't handle a fair fight. That's why they conjured up all this bullshit litigation against Trump. That's why the number 2 guy at Department of Justice had to leave D.C. to go to work for Alvin Bragg to persecute Donald Trump, because Team Biden wants Donald Trump there with another gag order, with 2 hands tied behind his back and him strapped to a chair, so they can bludgeon him and you never get to hear the truth. That's why Trump needs to talk. He needs to talk a lot to America. He needs to be a little more sensible and a little calmer than he normally is, so the Democrats and independents will listen to him. And he needs to bait Biden into demanding and granting a pardon. I'm going to take a pause for the cause and be back to you in a moment.
You are listening to Rally for the Republic with your host, Bryan Rudnick.
Okay, Bryan Rudnick, Rally for the Republic here in our final segment and conclusion. This is going to be a short episode today, but I'm about to tell you my surprise for this week. First, I want to thank you all for listening. Please be in touch. Feedback at rallyfortherepublic.com. I want you to study some of the Supreme Court decisions that have come out recently, and remember that they didn't say what the left wants you to think they said. Most of these decisions have been procedural in nature. They did not discuss the merits of whether or not abortion by mail is good or bad. They talked about the process by which people need to fight this with the FDA. They did not say that bump stocks are good. They said the manner in which the executive branch sought to ban them was inappropriate because it needed to go through Congress. The left wants you, of course, to think that abortions can't happen and that machine guns will be running around this country within the hands of law-abiding citizens, not the Bloods and the Crips that usually obtain them illegally. And instead of putting police on the streets, they'd rather have White House communications personnel, like you may have heard about in the news today, bashing law enforcement and trying to claim, oh, I didn't say that, please give me a pass. But, at any other administration, that individual would have been fired. But let's talk about what's important here for the last few moments of the show today. It is the end of the quarter. Jamaal Bowman is up for re-election. He needs to be booted from Congress. You need to give money, as I have said for the last few weeks, you need to give money to congressional candidates, not just Donald Trump, because you want to make sure Donald Trump has a Congress that can work with him to do the right America First job next year. You need to not get distracted by the left and their lies, especially when they've got Hillary Clinton coming back from the dead, bashing people like Samuel Alito for his Christian values. And even as a Jewish American, I'm offended by that kind of discriminatory rhetoric from Hillary, who really is just a horrible human being who we all know has killed people, ordered the killing of people, and of course, let's not forget her treason. We should never forget the fact that Hillary Clinton committed treason by letting America's secrets go. Remember that computer, that not so secure computer that she had in the basement? Never forget that. Never, ever forget that. But what you should remember is that we, the people, run this country. We, the people, have an ability to take back our country. We are no longer capitulating to the deep state. We are no longer capitulating to the left. We're no longer capitulating to the establishment. We control this country. We are taking it back at all branches, at all levels, state and federal and local. We're taking our country back. And we do that by exposing those people. We do that by saying no more. We do that by sending money in to good conservative candidates who need your help. We do that by rallying the Republic to boot people like Jamaal Bowman from office. We do that by staying engaged in this process. And I'm going to help you learn more about the process, not just in this show, not just in all my future shows, but the next episode. I want you to be ready to listen to my friend, Rick Shafton. Neighborhood research, great American, a great pollster. You don't see him on Fox and Newsmax. Why? Because people like he and I are too busy actually working and delivering for our clients. Rick has some great methodologies that for over 20 years I have used to help me with campaigns and causes. And he's been involved in the Virginia 10 the Virginia 10 primary and working on behalf of, I believe, a super PAC. And he's going to come in and talk about the trends that he has seen in that race, where things went right, where it went wrong, and how it compares to the polling data that he is seeing in other races around the country, whether it's Arizona, North Carolina, Florida, you name it. Rick has been in the game longer than me. He's seen a lot. He's done a lot. He's a character. That was the understatement of the year. And I think you're really thoroughly going to enjoy listening to his perspectives. So until the next time, please continue to love our country, fight back, and together we're going to rally for the Republic and take this nation back from everybody who has sought to destroy it. Thank you, and God bless.
You are listening to Rally for the Republic with your host, Bryan Rudnick. Thank you for joining us on Rally for the Republic, where we are fighting for America's future. Visit 1776coalition.com. Rally for the Republic podcast is available on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, and Google Podcasts. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and download. Join Bryan Rudnick next time as we continue to fight for the American way of life and challenge the hypocrisy. This is Rally for the Republic.